financed the lift, and I can't remember. I think we sold some stock, and it was all locally done. It was all locally done.
Well, it was terrible. It was terrible. Nothing was paved, of course. Everybody had rear-wheel drive cars, but we made it. It was harder getting up the hill. The palmers were terrible. You couldn't stay on them. If you fell off, you had to go to the back of the line. That was terrible. The rope tow would just eat your gloves. You try to grab it and it just disintegrate your gloves. But of course I couldn't ski. And then when I finally went to the top, the moguls were taller than me. I know I'd fall in the bottom of them and wonder if I'd ever get out, or somebody would come in and land on top of you, and then another guy, and it was really something.
Anything in particular that
probably the one that I think stands out the most to me is probably a lift operator. Lift operators up here can be kind of definitely a different breed of cat. And one was Zorro, right? And he was up on top of the double, and he was in his Zorro cape, and he was walking along the top of it, right? Pretty risque.
Well, the Minor Denver was in. That's a double chair. And they had a couple palma lifts, and they had a rope tow. And of course I didn't go on the chair lift because I wasn't any good at all.
Rope tow, and then we went to the palma. And then they had 2 rope tows back then. And they had the little green octagonal lodge. None of this existed, you know. And then if we get tired skiing, we'd go over and play in the drifts over by the outhouse and jump off the road.
Well, you know, we had the old TBar when I first started up here. And of course, T-bars were notorious for tipping people over, jerking them off the ground, and so forth. But I was happy to see that go. The area's come a long way.
And when the area first started, we had rope tows, and you'd wear out a pair of gloves about every 3 or 4 trips hanging onto the rope tows. So it was quite a challenge. It was a lot of work, but it was still a lot of fun.
And we had 2 rope tows at the time, and they were powered by Buick motors. Of course, Paul Hill and Fred, they had the Buick garage over on Arthur Street. And they put this together back then. Oh yeah, we had to, we as young kids like that always had to go up behind an older person because we couldn't hold on to the rope otherwise. And we wore out many pairs of gloves trying to get here. I mean, trying to get up the rope tow. And it was running through the snow on the bottom all the time, through pulleys on the top, see, and then if nobody was on it, it just run through the snow, so you couldn't get a grip on it. And then they come out with some toe grips. I've still got the 2 styles that they had back then. One flopped over and you'd hold on to the 2 pieces. It was a 2-piecer. And then they had one that had a hook on it like this, and you'd hook it on and lean back on it like that. And it had a hook and a kind of a stop here, and it'd hook in and you'd pull back on it like this in order to go up the toe. They had pouches for them. You wore a belt and they had a pouch for them, so you put it in the pouch when you got to the top, and then ski down and then take it out and lift up the rope and hook it on, and away you'd go. Yeah, because they were connected to the belt that you had on. And if you didn't unhook it, yeah, there was some real problems. Plus the rope tows, they got scarves, scarves, and the rope was always twisting as it went up. And then it'd take scarves, long hair on girls. It was quite something back then.
Well, when I first started skiing, there was a rope tow over on where the aspen is, right up part way up the mountain, and you'd wear your gloves out. I never had a rope tow hook. They had a hook, but I never could afford one of those. So I used to wear gloves, and I'd wear my gloves out. Then I finally figured out if I got behind a tall guy, he'd hold the rope up, because rope was heavy if you were little, and then it'd go up the mountain. And then I finally went over to the big pommel lift, which Francis Rastrom, who was a former owner, ran. And he had you'd stand in line, and you'd put this pommel underneath into your crotch, and he pulled the handle, and the grip would grab the cable and that spring on it and launch it. And if if you're light like a kid, I mean, it really sends you send you up the mountain. And if you fell, you kissed that ride goodbye, and you had to go to the back of the line. So the objective was not to fall, so you didn't lose your spot. Then later on, when I got on ski patrol, I used to drift. It was before they had a lot of equipment. They didn't have hardly any equipment. And we'd have to go up and shovel the drifts out of the pommel lift line. And he finally bought a Sprite, which was a little snowcat, first snowcat they had up here. And it really wasn't much of a machine to groom the hill. We spent more time digging it out of the snow when it's getting stuck than we did in grooming. And Stacy's, we used to call it the Volkswagen parking lot, because the moguls got so big in there. I mean, you go down in the trough between the moguls and you couldn't see over the top. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. And then, in the spring, when they get big snowballs that would be up on the lift, and they'd warm up, then they would freeze at night, and you get killed coming down the hill. You had to be real careful. So what we ski on now it's like night and day.
It was a rope tow, so you had to deal with the lifting the rope, and you hoped for a big, strong guy in front of you so you could let him pack part of the weight. Yeah, the rope was fairly heavy. Ate a lot of gloves.
Yeah, most of the lifts are getting pretty old, but they're a heavy piece of equipment, so that really doesn't bother them. But we joke that we don't do maintenance here, we do restoration. One of the lifts here has followed me for 15 years. It was at a ski area I was at about 15 years ago, and then we bought it used from that area and put it back up here, so I just follow me around to give me a hard time.
So you've worked on the same piece of equipment for the last 15 years?
Well, there's a point in the middle there that I didn't know, but yeah, I worked on it for a couple of years, and then 14 years later, or 13, it came back to, I got to play with it some more. Most of the time it seems to be electrical, because we work real hard on making sure they don't break down. And electrical is the one thing you can't really forecast. A breaker goes out or something like that. Wire finally just gets tired of vibrating and breaks. We do so many inspections and so much work on the mechanical aspects that we pretty well have that under control. But it just seems electrical is something that's a lot harder to forecast when it's going to fail. So they're powered with electric motors, and then they all have a backup of either gas or diesel. If we lose electricity, we can switch them over to a internal combustion engine to get everybody off. We can't continue to run them that way, but we get everybody off. And but they're all powered by electric.